I think it's a crime what Wizards did to Commander Legends Baldur's Gate. Commander Legends Baldur's Gate was this year's dedicated experimental draft-type product. It's something that is unique in its attempts to build a draftable commander set that has, at the same time, a draft level or draft style power level. It's really something different even from the original Commander Legends, in that it's not something that's going to replicate a game of Commander in draft. It is a draft format with kind of draft balanced cards, better balanced cards, that then can be played as Commander multiplayer. That might sound like a small distinction, but that really does make it, I think, far more playable and far more replayable as a limited format, as a draft format, than something like Commander Legends, or even than other similar types of products that they've done in the past, like Battlebound and Conspiracy.
Why the difference? I don't completely get it in terms of the regular Commander and Commander Baldur's Gate.
So Commander Legends, when they first released that, it was a draftable Magic set where you draft, you build your deck, but you build a Commander deck out of it. That had a lot of reprints. It had a lot of cards that were designed to get cards back into circulation for Constructed Commander. When you have a set that leans that heavily into Constructed, you end up with a lot of cards that are either unplayable or not particularly useful in a limited format, or you get the opposite, where you have cards that are very powerful and throw things off balance, so gameplay becomes a little bit more wobbly. I think that Commander Legends Baldur's Gate, clearly they built on what they learned from doing the first Commander Legends, in that it plays much more smoothly. The decks that you can build are incredibly cohesive. A lot of cards that are all designed to work together for that specific limited format that, again, might have application in Constructed Commander, that might still have other use, but that make for a much more fun, tight gameplay experience that you don't necessarily see when something is also pulling double duty as a reprint set.
So you say that this is something that they did an incredibly great job designing it?
For gameplay, yes.
And however, for whether it's marketing, whether it's part of the overall releases, that Wizard did a poor job or overshadowed it.
I think that Magic can sustain one big summer release. Spring counts as part of summer for these purposes, but between the months of, say, April and August, they can survive and sustain one major product outside of the regular standard sets.
No, I mean, what you said is true, especially from the perspective. Like, one of the things that we always ask when somebody comes in for pre-release or just played an event is, how did you like it, right? And my impression is the players thoroughly enjoy Commander Legend.
Absolutely. It's, if I may, a product that was harmed incredibly by the fact that it released essentially a month before Double Masters 2022, which was, I would say, the premium set of the year. Something so stuffed with, oh, great value, amazing reprints, incredibly desirable cards, and you can draft it. There are so many reasons to care about Double Masters 2022, and so much hype that they put into it, that by the time even that they were leading into the release of Commander Legends Baldur's Gate, it was already time to start looking ahead to Double Masters 2022.
True, it's pretty much like one of those situations where you're like, oh, this is great, this is fun, what's next?
Yeah.
And pretty much the set is swept aside.
Yeah.
Now, but that also means it's an opportunity, right? As with all things underrated. People that wants to play a fun draft Commander Legend set can choose Baldur's Gate in the next few years because a lot of it's produced versus what was picked up, and therefore the price would be pretty affordable.
I think that a set like that is something that has a lot of appeal in a way that other sets don't for limited play. Because you could say, oh, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, it's a great draft set, and it is. It plays really well for limited. But you can't just buy a box and with that box be like, oh, now I'm going to draft. No, you need to get a bunch of other people that you're going to be drafting with, and at that point, that's a barrier to limited play when it's not the most recent set that you're going to play at your local store. For something like Commander Legends, if you look at it for people who enjoy things like Commander, you already have a play group of maybe 4 people, maybe 5 people, maybe 6 people who you play with regularly. You could very easily say, okay, instead of today getting together and playing Commander like we normally would, why don't we get a box of Commander Legends Baldur's Gate, draft that, and play that instead, much the same way we would if we were playing Commander. You have that group setting already built into the Commander format, so it becomes a lot easier to play for limited than something like a standard set, or even some of the other draft-specific sets like Conspiracy or Battle Bond, if you're trying to do that as someone who's not doing it in a Commander context.
Okay, so what you're saying is maybe in 2023 we should have a couple of Commander Legends draft Baldur's Gate set
I'm
events.
saying if at any point you're like, my Magic playing friends and I are getting together, we don't know exactly what we want to do, we want to maybe mix it up, do something a little different, tired of playing Commander like you do every week, you could very easily, and affordably now, because they're not incredibly pricey compared to a lot of other products, pick up a box of Commander Legends Baldur's Gate, have a really good time. Depending on how many people are in your draft group, you can get a certain amount of playability out of that, and then you can keep the cards when you're done too. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, so maybe that's something that we'll also try to have events for people who want to do it.
Hey, if people ask, we'll see what we can do to provide.